Welcome in to the Yankees free edition of the Lucas and Lucas podcast. Mike, we're doing this new thing where we don't mention the New York Yankees because they are not worth mentioning. They are a complete dumpster fire. Everything that could gone wrong has gone wrong, and therefore they will not be mentioned on this podcast moving forward until next spring training. And that is where things stand with the team that plays in the Bronx, New York.
They are hard to watch. I have lost all joy in watching baseball. The Guardians suck. The Yankees are abysmal. It's football season, Frank. Why talk anything but football during football season?
I just want to mention one thing I saw on the internet yesterday. I'm sure you saw it too. The Giants announcer, his name is Dave Fleming. I'm not too familiar with who he is or what he does. But he came in last place in his fantasy league, and his punishment was that he got to be the bat boy for the team, the Giants, during a game. If there was a fantasy league where you got to come in last place and be the bat boy for a team for a game, I would do everything in my power to play in that league. Of all the fantasy punishments I've ever seen on the internet, this is without a doubt the worst one. It is the one that people should be wanting to get and not, praying they don't finish in last place because they have to embarrass themselves. I couldn't believe this. This was like this. They were like, "Oh my God, he came in last place, so he has to be the bat boy." Like, wait, how are people supposed to react to that? I didn't understand it at all.
Well, I think you and I, Frank, are a lot different. I think if you are an older person, it definitely wouldn't be as fun and entertaining. But I will say this: we brought it up on the show. As soon as it got brought up on the show, two people were like, "I'm drafting a kicker in every single round, so I lose." So what we're gonna try doing? We actually texted the Guardians. We're gonna let the winner, if he wants, like whoever finishes highest and move on down the line. If first place doesn't want it, then second place, be a bat boy for the day for the Guardians. They said sure. So we're in.
I mean, that's a great little plug. But yeah, I just couldn't believe that like that. Like there are also obviously there are a ton of great fantasy punishments that make it online where someone has to like sit outside in like the heat for 4 hours tied to a chair, like whatever you make it be. But this was just, are you kidding me? And the fact that they were making it like go viral on social media, like it wasn't even something that was cringeworthy or was like an actual real punishment. I guess it's like a cute little baseball thing, whatnot, but I didn't appreciate it at all. It's basically the moral of the story. But let's move on to a couple other things, including James Harden, who is doing what James Harden does best, and that is demolishing organizations, doing everything he can to just rip them apart. He went to China. I don't know what prompted this or what, if someone asked him a question or he was just given a microphone and just went on a spree of just talking. But he said that Daryl Morey is a liar and that he'll never be part of an organization that he's a part of. I'm just sorry. So let's circle back here because we talked about this James Harden situation when those photos surfaced from Michael Rubin's party, which now I believe are completely staged. There is no doubt in my mind that Harden was like, "Hey, let's take a picture of me with Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris and all looking really happy, and we'll post it to the internet and we'll make everyone think that everything's fine." But man, this looks like it's more toxic than the Harden Rockets situation was. It looks like it's more toxic than the Nets situation ever was. And I guess the only rationalization I could think of for why Harden would opt in to that $35 million is because he knew that there was no chance any other team in the NBA would even come close to matching that salary for this season. Because if he really feels that way about about the Sixers, and he had an opportunity to leave the organization, why wouldn't he just do it? Why did he have to opt in when he was going to be, when he could have been a free agent to create all this turmoil? It is the most James Harden thing.
You know why? You know the answer to your own question. You know why. What rules the world, Frankel? What makes the basis of every decision that 97% of athletes make? What is the bottom line basis of everything that we do in this world, especially on the sports front, especially for these mega $1 million athletes? And I just gave you the hint. I just said it.
Money.
Yes, that is why. That is why. And he couldn't have got that deal anywhere else. And my guess, and I have no inside knowledge of this is a pure guess, that Daryl Morey at some point said, and I believe this happened last year, he said, "James, take a team-friendly deal this year, sign that little cheaper extension, then we will pay you back on the back end of this." Man-to-man, Morey is James Harden's guy. He brought him to Houston. He brought him to Philadelphia. James trusted him in that sense. And then when it came to fruition, Morey's looking around and Morey's like, well, crap, you know what? I don't think I can actually win James Harden. I don't think I can. There's no way I can look myself in the mirror after giving him a 4-year extension at that money. Well, I don't think he's even worth that money right now based on the current player he is as he gets older and older. And that'd be a bad business move for my franchise. And I don't have a ring. That's what I'm chasing. And you know what? James, I'm sorry. I love you, buddy, but there's no way it's going to happen. And that's what Harden's now pissed about is he signed that extension when he could have got more money last year as a year younger, could have got that, whatever, 180 million, whatever the deal was that was on the table had he signed the extension then, but wanted to wait. And now he's like, you know what? You promised me my money. Now you're not going to give it to me. Well, F you.
What's crazy about this is that Kyrie Irving, who was the person that single-handedly forced James Harden off the Nets, literally went to his defense on Twitter after Adrian Wojnarowski tweeted the article about how Harden called Morey a liar. Kyrie said, quote, "Is he disgruntled, Adrian, ? Or is he holding Daryl Morey accountable for his dishonesty and lack of transparency throughout the contract negotiation process this summer?" I mean, it's just amazing how it's like a complete this league thing where these two guys who couldn't stand to be in the same room as each other are now coming to the defense of each other on Twitter or on X or whatever it's called. It's unbelievable. And then,
it's still Twitter. Real quick, it's still Twitter. Don't call it X.
No, it's
Twitter,
X.
whatever.
X. All right. Anyway, as I was saying, so I've been on the record as saying that I wouldn't touch Harden with a 50-foot pole, and I don't see any. And if you want to Harden on your team, then you're basically signing up not to win, unless he's like the 12th, the 8th, 9th man on the team who doesn't really play a huge role but comes in for a few minutes a game and contributes. But that's not the way. That's not what Harden views himself. He wants to view himself as being one of the top, 1 or 2 pieces on a team, making $40+ million a year. But reality is for James Harden is that he doesn't have the work ethic for it anymore. Not that I don't know if he actually ever did have the work ethic, but especially as he's gotten older, it's significantly gotten worse. And he doesn't have the drive for it. And you'd just be crazy if you're an NBA team to dole out the red carpet again for James Harden, because we've seen this movie before. This is the 3rd organization he is completely ruining. And I don't know why any team would want to get into business with him. And I think I do agree with what you said about Morey. I think there was clearly some sort of non-handshake agreement that Harden was going to take a discount last year, and that he would be rewarded this offseason with the extension that he wanted. And now that he's not getting it, he's going absolutely rogue. I just don't know how this could possibly end because no team wants him and he's under contract. So the Sixers are just going to say, go home and hold out for a trade. That's the best I can do is they're just going to be like, all right, don't come and we'll eat the contract this year and then go away. It's the best I can do.
Yeah, it's crazy because the Sixers are now kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't. If they don't kind of bend and give in to James Harden ways and trade him, then I have a hard time believing they'll ever be able to keep Joel Embiid in the long run, which is, I think, their long-term goal. If they say, Harden, you're going to play, and he's made enough money in his life, if he feels like saying F you to Daryl Morey, he could walk away and be totally fine. And then you're stuck with Embiid in a championship window and have no other quote-unquote star pieces to put around him for the window. If you do trade him, you're also going to get minimal value back now because he's on the expiring contract. He doesn't have a long-term extension. And what team really wants James Harden? So I don't know what the right or wrong thing to do is if I were in Daryl Morey's shoes. All I know is he's found himself in the messiest of situations, and we haven't seen anybody ever. Maybe ever is too strong, but I can't remember anyone who has self-sabotaged more teams than James Harden. And you can say Kyrie, but they're 3-3 in my opinion. They're tied. So, I don't know what the hell you do, and I don't know who the hell wants Harden. That's the other thing. Who wants James Harden?
If they could make it happen, it doesn't really benefit anyone, but trade back Ben Simmons for James Harden. Who says no? Who would say no first is the question.
Philly, only because there's no way they could put Harden, Embiid, and Simmons on the same team again.
I mean, I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I was trying to think of a more toxic player than Harden, and Kyrie, but I can't think of a guy who's just completely ruined every organization he goes to, he leaves in the worst under the worst possible circumstances you could possibly leave under. It is unfathomable how this guy handles himself and doesn't seem to learn from any lessons at all.
It goes back to real quick. It goes back to at the end of the day, fans care about championships so much more than players do. We get so worked up about, is our team a championship contender? This guy has so many rings. That guy didn't win one. He's not as players just want to get paid. Not everybody, like there are exceptions to the rule, but most of these guys, to them, it's just a means to make money. And James Harden is the perfect example of that. James Harden is literally fighting his way out of a team and turning it ugly. That was one game away from beating the Boston Celtics and was probably the prohibited favorite to beat the Miami Heat had those two teams matched up in the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, James Harden was one win away from potentially playing the finals on 3 different teams now. 3 different teams. And he's always like, it's not good enough. I want to see what's else out there. And the teams he wants to go to, it was potentially Houston, rebuild. The Clippers, you know why he wants to go to L.A., because Paul George, Kawhi Leonard always hurt. He could be the quote-unquote focal point of the team again. He just cares about himself. I
mean, there's no doubt who James Harden cares about.
Yeah. I'm just glad my boy's not with the Sixers anymore. I'll just put it that way. I'm just glad my boy's not with the Sixers anymore. He got out at the right time. I'll leave it at that.
All right, so the New York Jets did not show Dalvin Cook on the first episode of Hard Knocks. I'd like to believe that all that footage that was filmed when he was at the practice will be showcased tonight. And we're taping this on Tuesday at just before 6 p.m. Eastern time. But the Jets signed Dalvin Cook on Monday, and I just didn't see the need. I didn't see why the Jets needed to make this move, because they already had Breece Hall, Michael Carter, Israel, Abanikanda, and Zon. They already had a Zonovan Knight, a whole running back room of guys who could play. To me, Dalvin Cook is declining, and
he was really good last year.
But if you look at how great he was in 2019, 2020, and then if you basically look at those years and the trajectory he's under, he's gotten worse and worse and worse every single year. And there's running backs don't magically refine it. When you lose it, it only gets worse and you only get slower. You don't all of a sudden have a down year and then, aside from injury, and come back and regain your elite form. That's just not the way it works for running backs. I'm just not sure. Listen, we could look back at this in week 7, and Dalvin Cook has won 2 AFC Offensive Player of the Week awards and is leading the league in rushing, and I could look like the biggest idiot on face of the earth, but I just don't see that happening. I kind of see this as like a last gasp, because if he was really that great, like he would have signed a 3 or 4 year deal with another team after he got released by the Vikings. Like, I disagree. He's a declining asset. I guess. I mean, when the Jets got LaDainian Tomlinson, I thought LT had a little more left in the tank at that point.
I totally disagree.
So you think he's coming to make a major impact for the Jets?
Yeah, I do. I think that Dalvin Cook plays a position in the NFL that is completely deteriorated in terms of value. And it doesn't matter if it was Nick Chubb, if it was Derrick Henry, if any of those guys hit the free market, I don't think they're getting more than a 2-year deal. You look around the league, most teams are pretty happy with their running back situations. And I think the Jets, even without Dalvin Cook, would have been fine with their running back situation entering the season. But when you look at the totality of the AFC, there are 10 teams, in my opinion, that are legitimate playoff contenders, legitimate teams that could win 10 and or more games this season and compete for a playoff spot. And the difference in making the playoffs and missing the playoffs might be 1 game. And in my opinion, Dalvin Cook is good enough and still good enough to swing a game in the Jets' favor this year, at least 1. To me, he's worth at least half a game. That's why I was so adamant about the Browns trying to sign DeAndre Hopkins to upgrade their receiver room. Now, they needed a receiver more than the Jets needed a running back, But I think adding a player of either of those two's caliber, even at this stage of their career, into the fold is worth at least half a win. It also allows the Jets to be extra cautious bringing Breece Hall back in. They may take even a little more time and ease Breece Hall back into it. So Dalvin Cook is your workhorse for the first 6-7 games of the season. And those last 10, it's Breece Hall time. And then Cook becomes your spell back. And I understand they already had a deep running back room. Michael Carter, I like. Zonovan Knight looked pretty good last year. But I don't think those guys are at the level of Dalvin Cook right now, who was the 4th leading rusher in the NFL last season, Frank. The 4th leading rusher in the NFL. He only got cut out of Minnesota because he was due to make $12 million. It was a cap casualty. They had to reallocate a lot of funds. They traded Zadarius Smith to Cleveland to save $10 million. They cut Dalvin Tomlinson, or didn't re-sign Dalvin Tomlinson to save money. Also with Cleveland, Dalvin Cook was a cap casualty. They did some other moves as well to open up cap space. It wasn't like he was unproductive last year. So I think with Aaron Rodgers, they know it's a 2-year window. You got to get all the talent humanly possible in. It's an insurance plan, and it makes the Jets better. How much better? Maybe half a game, maybe just one game. If you think it doesn't, then it doesn't. In my opinion, it does, and that's worth it in this arms race.
No, I guess if you're looking at it, does he help improve the team? Then, and the answer is yes. Then I guess you make the move. We'll see that he's not even going to be, practicing for at least another week, according to Schefter. He's still recovering from off-season shoulder surgery, so we'll see if he's even ready for week 1 or how up to speed he is with everything come the first game of the season. My biggest fear with the Jets, obviously, is the play of Rodgers and that early season schedule, which is just an absolute gauntlet. Buffalo at Dallas, home versus the Patriots, where they haven't beaten since 2015, home versus the Chiefs, at the Broncos, and then home versus the Eagles. That first 6-game stretch. I mean, if you're 3-3, then you got to be smiling. Anything better than that is absolutely golden. But if they're 2-4, 1-5 after their first 6 games, it's gonna be a major uphill battle to compete for a playoff spot in the AFC. So we'll see. Let me
ask you a question real quick. We did this in the show today with the signing of Dalvin Cook, and we didn't know the Jets roster as well as you do. You probably don't know Cleveland's roster as well as we do. Which team, top to bottom, do you think has more talent on the roster, the Jets or the Browns?
I think you have to say the Jets. How could you not say the Jets? Who's the Browns' number 1 receiver?
Amari Cooper, who's not as good as Garrett Wilson. But
okay, so check mark to the Jets. Chubb versus
Nick Chubb's better than your running back room.
I mean,
Nick Chubb's the best running back in football.
I don't know. All right. So here's the argument against Chubb. When Watson played last year, Chubb's production declined exponentially.
Well, because Watson was terrible and teams were putting 9 guys in the box. Nick Chubb's better than the Jets running back room. I will hear none of that.
I think it's closer than you think. Breece Hall was going to be, an all-pro last year before he got hurt.
Breece Hall's good. I just think Nick Chubb's on that top tier, and then the Jets got 2 or 3 guys in 2nd or 3rd tier.
O-line.
Browns' offensive line's pretty good.
I guess give a slight edge to Cleveland. Quarterback, based on, I guess neither guy was good last year, but if you're going based on track record and who you expect to have, I guess, a better year, you have to say Aaron Rodgers, just because for all we know, you
can make the argument both ways, but
for all we know, Deshaun Watson is washed.
Yeah, like I said, if you wanted to argue Watson, I'd be like, yeah. If you want to argue Rodgers, I'd be like, you can make that argument. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer on that one. Defensive tackles definitely goes to the Jets.
I mean, Myles Garrett probably trumps anything the Jets have. The Jets do have capable pass rushers. I guess based on Myles Garrett being, one of the best, most feared guys in the league, you'd go him.
They also got Zadarius Smith from Minnesota, who was on pace for an all-pro season last year before he got hurt. So,
and the Browns also have Elijah Moore. Who could forget? What's the latest in Browns camp on Elijah Moore?
They think that he's going to be like a 1,400-yard receiver.
Oh my God!
No one in the league has generated more hype this preseason for a new fan base than Elijah Moore. I actually feel bad for him because
there's no way he's going to do it.
Expectations for Elijah Moore in Cleveland are now so ridiculous that even if he has a great year, it won't be enough. I feel bad for him. I actually think we have set the bar way too high for him.
I mean, I was extremely high on Elijah Moore after his first couple of years in the league or for a rookie year, I thought, oh my God, this guy's a beast. And then he became all about me, 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 me. And when he stopped getting the ball, um, so I'm not as I do think the dude has a world of talent, and I'm not really touching anyone on the Browns offense this year because I don't trust Watson in terms of fantasy because I don't trust Watson. I don't like the dynamic between Watson and Chubb. And because I don't trust Watson, I don't trust any of those receivers to give me consistent production. So that's in terms of a fantasy aspect, I am not touching a single Cleveland Brown.
Ask one of your NFL. The verdict we came to is they're pretty damn close. Ask one of your NFL when you're at work tomorrow, who may be a little less, I know you're in tune to exactly what the Jets do, not as in tune to Cleveland. Ask one of the national guys.
No, it's definitely close. I mean, the Browns have a lot of talent. They have a lot of guys who can make plays. It just, I mean, they're in a similar situation as the Jets, where their division is absolutely loaded with Lamar, Burrow.
Whether or not the quarterback is who they think he is.
I mean, the two biggest wild cards at quarterback in the NFL this season are Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson. In terms of, because those guys both absolutely stunk it up in every conceivable way, and to trust that they all of a sudden will refine their form, it's a tough thing to believe. So we'll see.
Watson's a little, he suspended 11 games, came in, not a full training camp, and missed a full season. Like, he was bad.
But did he he showed me nothing.
I know.
That he,
that's what I just said. He wasn't good, but his play was more excusable based on circumstances than a guy like Russell Wilson who had a full training camp with the team. And he didn't get better from week 1 to 7. He got a little better in the second half of the season. Deshaun Watson didn't necessarily improve, but that was a team that was out of the playoff race, and he had missed the first 11 games of the season. They completely changed the offense around. It wasn't tailored to him like Denver was tailored to Wilson. Listen, Deshaun Watson was not good last year. It would not surprise me if he's very good this year. I'd be shocked if Russell Wilson's good. I just think he's fallen off a cliff.
I don't disagree with that at all. Last thing before we go. So I imagine you've seen The Blind Side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, crazy story. Crazy.
So basically the moral of this is that if something's too good to be true, it definitely is. I was definitely very, suspect of the whole thing. Like, I guess my first question is, why doesn't this happen, more often, where you have this, you're in this poor town and, these rich families are looking for scouting for these athletes who, if they just had a little more support, a little more resources around them, they would, get into a great college and possibly make it to the NFL or whatever sport, basketball, baseball. But this was such an outlier of a story. You don't really hear anything like this anywhere else. And now that the Tui family has released this basically counter statement to what Michael Orr alleged on Monday, because my initial inclination was this was clearly. My perception of the story, I should say, is this was a family who saw that this guy had the talent to be an NFL player. They would not have brought him in if he didn't have this football talent. And they knew that, brought him in, helped him out, helped propel him to the NFL. And knowing that, where based on, the neighborhood he came from, didn't have the resources to, understand, or the support around him or the knowledge to understand all the legal, stuff that he was getting himself into. I don't know if they told him. I mean, obviously we were in the room. We have no idea if they told him that we're adopting you. You're going to be part of the family. Maybe they did. I don't know. But the whole thing just leaves an awful taste in my mouth. I can never watch The Blind Side ever again and be happy, because it's such a feel good story. But as like I said, anything that's too good to be true usually is. Shame here. I don't know whose side to take. I'd like to believe that Michael Orr was taken advantage of, and that's where I stand on the situation.
Yeah, you hit it on the head, man. I don't even know how to really comment on it because I don't know all the facts in it. We're probably never going to get them, but it feels and here's the other thing. And I'm playing both sides. I honestly don't. Does Michael Orr make it to Ole Miss in the NFL if that family doesn't help him out in the way they did? Probably not.
Doesn't seem like. I mean, doesn't it seems like he would have, ended up.
He never played football.
Well, because the way they spun the
true,
whole the way they spun the whole movie was that if he didn't get taken in by the Tuohys and didn't
could have been on the streets forever and never would have
right, and they show that other guy who remember he visited that house. I've seen the movie like a bunch of times. Like I love
it. Great movie.
And they show like that his friend in that house with all the guns
in the bad part of town. Yeah, like
right,
so
like that guy ended up dying, and like he was had a huge promising. He was a really promising athlete who ended up dying. They sort of like spin it in the way that if Orr didn't get brought to that side of town, the good side of town, he would have ended up like this guy.
So like if you go off that, and I'm not justifying like what they did is messed up if it's true, but Michael Orr made a lot of money thanks to that family.
But did he though? Like,
and
so here's the question, Mike. So he did make a lot of money.
But he should have made more. He should have made way more.
No. So if he signed whatever this conservatorship, which I never heard of.
I never heard that either. Yeah.
So I was reading about it earlier to try to get a better understanding of it. And basically what it is it's usually for people who are too mentally unaware or impaired or have a disability where they don't really.
It was the Britney Spears thing, right?
I don't know. I honestly know nothing what happened with Britney Spears. I'm completely.
I'm pretty sure it's what happened with Britney Spears. Where her dad.
I don't know what happened to Britney Spears.
Okay.
The free Britney thing. I don't know. I don't get into that crap. Anyway, so it's basically you basically sign away your right to handle your life. Your finances, whatever. So like, who knows? And Michael Orr's agent was a close family friend of the Tuohys, and basically everything in his life was controlled by the Tuohys. So like, who knows how much money, actual NFL money, he saw? Like,
here, real quick, that's fair. I'm not arguing that point at all. Like that, you're spot on.
Thank you.
I'm saying, and once again, I don't know what to. I don't have the facts. Any money that was made off his story, it's like NIL. He should have got some sort of return on that. Just like Johnny Manziel.
He did.
Let me get a point out. Let me get a point out here before you keep cutting me off before I can actually get to it. So it feels like I'm not making any sense here. Just like Johnny Manziel should have got portions of what A&M was selling in his jersey during his heyday, even though he didn't. He should have. Michael Orr should have gotten some sort of financial return on the movie about his story, just like the family, in theory, benefited from that production. However, without the family, Orr doesn't make it to the NFL, and assuming he saw some of that money, that's money he would not have seen elsewhere. So, like, they seem like terrible people for taking advantage of a guy. They also helped him get into a situation he probably wouldn't have done anyway. And I wish we had the actual facts of what happened so I could either decide these are the worst people of all time or they're just bad, but also a little bit
people who got greedy and took advantage of a situation. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's what it is. I think because clearly the not that I know anything about the Tuohy family, but clearly they clearly did a good thing with Michael Orr. Like, I think there's no doubt that he doesn't make it to the NFL if he doesn't get brought in there and get the proper coaching, the proper awareness, the proper media attention. Like I don't think there's any chance he has the type of pro career that he has without them. It's just crazy. Like I think about the scene where the investigator is there, like investigating him and the family, and clearly she didn't do a good enough job. But
yeah,
that's another discussion for another day.
Crazy, absolutely crazy.
All right, that will do it for this edition of the Lucas and Lucas podcast. Maybe we'll be back next week to talk about the latest in the James Harden saga and the Yankees losing their 12th straight game.
Peace.